It is time for another 1-minute market update where we talk about the two things that you should care about most as a homeowner or a potential homeowner. That's how much is my home worth today compared to what it was yesterday, and how long would it take to sell in today's market. It's November now, so of course we're taking a look at stats from October, from last month. I'm Angelo with the Atlas Group, and there's a point that I want to make before we jump into the stats. There's been a theme developing this year, and to kind of summarize that theme in one word, I would call it disruption. Every couple of weeks, there's a new news story that is shaking people's confidence, not only in the housing market, but just in the economy and the market generally. Whether it's trade wars, tariffs, interest rates, the Premier of Ontario running an ad and pissing off the president, the BC Premier potentially threatening to run the same sort of ad and continuing to piss off the president. Or whether it's a landmark legal case that's basically screwing over most of Richmond. There's been a lot of disruption this year. And there's one particular group that is frankly taking advantage of that disruption and the ensuing lack of confidence in the real estate market. And that group of people is buyers. Buyers who are well-financed and who have a long outlook on their purchase. Because these kinds of buyers are getting absolutely smoking good deals on their purchases. Who it is tough for right now, though, is generally sellers, but specifically sellers who bought in 2022. They're having a very, very, very tough time right now as they're realizing that the price that they paid for their home is not where the market is willing to pay anymore. Anyway, enough about all that. Let's jump into the numbers. Beginning in Burnaby with detached homes, you are down 2.1% from last month and down 6.8% from last year. New West, you're down 3% from last month and down 7.6% from this time last year. Coquitlam, you're down 0.8% from last month and down 5.4% from this time last year. Port Moody, you are equal with last month, but you are down 2.1% from last year. Port Coquitlam, you're up just a tiny bit, 0.2% from last month, but still down 6.3% from last year. Maple Ridge, you are down 1.2% from last month and down 3.7% from last year. And Pitt Meadows, you are down 6.1% from last month and down 13% from last year. That is a big drop. And into townhouses now, once again starting off in Burnaby, you are down 1% from last month and down 1.5% from last year. New West, you're down 1.6% from last month and down 4.8% from last year. Coquitlam, you are down 1.1% from last month, but you're up 0.7% from this time last year. Port Moody, you are down 0.9% from last month and down 3% from this time last year. Port Coquitlam, you are down 1.7% from last month, but you're up 1.8% from last year. Go Poco. Maple Ridge, you are down 1.3% from last month and you are down 2.4% from last year. And finally, Pitt Meadows, you are down 1.9% from last month, but a little gain from this time last year, up at 0.4%. If you find this kind of information useful, be sure to give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, and better yet, if you know someone that would also benefit from this kind of a video, make sure you share it with them. On to condos now, and this one is a bit of a doozy. Burnaby, you are down 1% from last month, but down 5.2% from last year. New West, you're up just a teeny tiny little rounding error, 0.1% from last month, but down 3.1% from this time last year. Coquitlam, you're down a little bit, 0.1% from last month, but down 6.1% from last year. Port Moody, you're actually up 2.4% from last month, which is pretty solid, but down 2.5% from this time last year. Port Coquitlam, again, teeny little drop, 0.2% from last month, but still down 5.4% from this time last year. And Maple Ridge, this one kind of hurts. You are down 0.7% from last month, but down 11.4% from this time last year. And Pitt Meadows, you're doing no better with condos. You are down 0.1% from last month and down 11.1% from this time last year. Oof. All right, jumping into days on market now, or how long homes are taking to sell on average. Burnaby, you're down a little bit to 30 days. New West, you're down a little bit as well to 29 days. Coquitlam, you're sitting at 20 days. Port Moody, you're sitting at 31 days. Port Coquitlam, 24 days. Maple Ridge, 34 days. And Pitt Meadows, 26 days. Basically, everybody is sitting in the 3 to 4 to 5 week range for their days on market. And that's basically across the board from Vancouver out to Chilliwack. Now, we get asked the question sometimes, why is pricing doing what it's doing? I'm not an economist, I sell houses, so I can give you a bit of insight on the kinds of conversations that we're having and what we're seeing happen boots on the ground in the market right now. A lot of people right now are trying to take advantage of the market, and that's a good thing. They have maybe a condo or a townhouse and they're trying to upsize into something larger. The reason they're doing that right now is that the price difference to make that jump up is smaller than it's been in years past. As the market starts to increase, whenever it does start to go up again, that price gap is going to start growing and growing and growing. So it's going to be tougher to make that jump up to the next larger home. But the challenge that a lot of people are having right now is that it's tough to sell right now. It's tough to stand out in a market with a ton of inventory. And part of the reason that we're seeing condos take a fair bit of the brunt of the hit of price drops is because, well, there's just more of them. There's more people that are trying to offload those condos. And if they have to sell their place to make that jump up work, well, a lot of the time they're having to take a little bit less money than they maybe initially thought or initially expected to make that jump work. But it still makes sense for them to do so, again, because that gap to make that jump up is smaller right now. So is it a good time for everybody to buy and sell a home right now? No. Absolutely not. But if you're thinking about maybe making a move, there is a link in the description below. You can book a time to chat with us. It'll be free, no obligations. We'll sit down and have a discussion with you about your situation and see what might make sense to consider doing this year or next year or even over the next couple of years. Anyway, once again, I'm Angelo with the Atlas Group. I'll see you in the next one.